So tell us who you are, please.
My name is Jessica Sanchez. I'm 29 years old and I sing.
20 years ago, a shy 10-year-old with big eyes and a bigger voice stepped onto a national stage, only to quietly vanish before she could claim the spotlight. Now, in a confetti-streaked explosion of emotion and power, Jessica Sanchez has returned. And this time, she didn't come alone. Standing center stage on America's Got Talent, visibly glowing and visibly pregnant, Jessica did something no one expected. She opened her mouth, sang one song, and triggered one of the most electrifying golden buzzer moments in AGT history. The audience roared, the judges were stunned, and within hours, the internet lit up with clips of her breathtaking performance and jaw-dropping reveal. But what most people didn't know, what even the cameras didn't catch, was that this wasn't just a comeback. It was a story 20 years in the making, a story of fame lost and found, of hidden heartbreaks and second chances. And now everyone's asking the same question: how did a forgotten prodigy transform into the most unforgettable voice of the season? When Jessica Sanchez walked onto the America's Got Talent stage in July 2025, few realized they were witnessing the comeback of a former child star. Dressed in a modest yet radiant white gown that subtly framed her baby bump, she quietly introduced herself to the judges, her voice calm but hiding 20 years of silence. Then came the moment that would shatter the stillness. As the first haunting notes of Beautiful Things by Benson Boone echoed through the studio, something shifted. Her voice, raw, emotional, impossibly powerful, cut through the air like lightning, grabbing every ear, every eye, every heart. The crowd gasped, then rose. The judges locked eyes. And when the final note faded into breathless silence, Sofia Vergara smashed the golden buzzer with both hands, unleashing a downpour of golden confetti that rained on a woman transformed. Social media exploded before the echo even died. Within minutes, clips of her performance were trending on every major platform. Golden Jess and AGT Mom surged across timelines. Fans and first-time viewers alike asked the same thing: who is she? Some recognized her from American Idol. Others vaguely remembered a kid from the early seasons of AGT. But none were prepared for the emotional freight train they'd just witnessed. And as Jessica hugged Sofia through a whirlwind of tears, applause, and flying confetti, the moment didn't just feel magical, it felt like destiny arriving 20 years late. But what made it all the more jaw-dropping was what happened before she sang. That quiet smile, that one unexpected sentence, "I'm expecting." A reveal so personal, so raw, it instantly layered her performance with gravity most contestants never bring. But Jessica hadn't just walked in from nowhere. The truth was far more complicated, and it started with a little girl chasing big dreams long before TikTok ever existed, before the golden buzzer, before the trending hashtags, before the baby on stage surprise. Jessica Sanchez was just a little girl with a huge voice and an even bigger dream. At age 10, she stunned audiences on the very first season of America's Got Talent back in 2006, a tiny powerhouse with stage presence well beyond her years. Though she didn't win, her performance lingered in viewers' memories like a melody that wouldn't fade. But Jessica wasn't finished. 6 years later, she made headlines again, this time as a teenage finalist on American Idol Season 11. Week after week, she delivered flawless performances that had judges and fans labeling her the next Whitney Houston. She wasn't just good, she was electric. At only 16, she finished as runner-up, narrowly missing the title but winning a devoted fan base and a record deal. For a while, it looked like Jessica was unstoppable. She toured globally, performed for high-profile events, and even sang for President Obama. But somewhere between red carpets and rehearsals, the dream began to fracture. Industry expectations piled on. Creative control slipped away. Her identity as an artist was squeezed into a box of pop ballads and pre-written personas. The spotlight she had chased her whole life suddenly felt more like a prison than a stage. And slowly, almost silently, she began to pull back. The hits stopped coming. The offers thinned out. By her mid-20s, Jessica had vanished from the mainstream almost entirely. But unlike so many one-season wonders, she didn't flame out with a scandal or a meltdown. She simply disappeared, choosing obscurity over compromise. And while the industry moved on to the next viral sensation, Jessica was quietly building a life far away from the cameras, a life few knew about, until she reappeared, carrying not just a baby, but a story only she could tell. After the frenzy of television stardom faded and the record label promises dried up, Jessica Sanchez didn't spiral, she disappeared. Not in scandal, not in failure, but in a deliberate, near-silent exit from the very world that once cheered her name. At just 23, she packed her bags and moved to Houston, Texas, a city known more for barbecue and ballads than Billboard charts. There, far from Los Angeles lights and music industry gatekeepers, Jessica started over. She traded glitzy tour buses for modest local venues, singing at jazz bars and open mics, not for fans, but for herself. In that stillness, she began to heal the part of her that fame had fractured. She met Ricky Gallardo, a charming restaurant owner who didn't see her as a failed pop star, but as a woman rediscovering her rhythm. They married in 2021 in a small ceremony, no magazine spreads, no paparazzi, just vows exchanged in a quiet garden under Houston skies. For the next few years, Jessica lived what most would call a normal life, running errands, cooking family meals, writing music that no one else heard. But behind that calm exterior was a voice that never stopped aching to be heard. Slowly, her soul crept back to the piano. Songs poured out, some broken, some angry, all honest. Houston gave her something Hollywood never could, peace. And in that peace, she found power. Power to choose her path, power to love without filters, power to create without compromise. But even as she built a life she loved, something inside her kept whispering, a dare, a calling, a question she couldn't silence. What if there's still more? And just when the idea of performing again felt like a distant dream, a letter came, an invitation, a second chance, the same stage where it all began. Only this time she'd walk in not as a prodigy, not as a starlet, but as a woman reborn. For years the stage had been a ghost that haunted Jessica Sanchez, something she loved too much to forget and feared too much to face again. But in late 2024, everything changed with one email. It wasn't flashy, no bold headlines, no urgent demand, just an invitation. Would you consider auditioning for AGT Season 20? At first, she laughed. She was nearly 30, out of the industry, and secretly pregnant. But the email sat in her inbox like a dare, whispering louder each time she walked past her upright piano or caught a rerun of Idol late at night. Something inside her clicked. This time, she wouldn't be chasing fame. She'd be chasing closure, clarity, not for the world, for herself. So she said yes. What followed was months of quiet preparation, tucked between prenatal appointments and cravings that changed by the hour. She sang through morning sickness. She recorded practice tapes between husband Ricky's work shifts. Every evening, her living room transformed into a rehearsal space where she'd sing with her hands resting on her stomach, her unborn child, the first audience to hear what she was building. And make no mistake, this was different. This wasn't a 16-year-old trying to prove herself to the world. This was a grown woman, fully aware of what she'd lost and what she stood to gain. She chose a song that reflected her journey, Benson Boone's Beautiful Things, not because it was flashy, but because it echoed the quiet miracles in her life. Jessica knew she didn't fit the mold of a comeback star. She wasn't trending. She wasn't viral. She was a soon-to-be mom with stretch marks and stories, betting on one more moment under the lights. But she didn't care. She stepped onto that AGT stage, not to reclaim something, but to redefine it. And just when she thought the hardest part would be singing pregnant, she made a bold decision that shocked everyone before she even sang a note. The AGT stage was blinding under the lights, but Jessica Sanchez stood tall, barely showing a hint of nerves, even as her baby bump gently pressed against the soft fabric of her dress. Then, with a smile both nervous and knowing, she dropped a bombshell that instantly shifted the room's energy. Before I sing, I just want to share, I'm expecting. A stunned silence fell, quickly followed by gasps, then a rolling wave of applause. The judges leaned forward. The audience stood taller, and just like that, the stakes skyrocketed. Then came the first note. It wasn't just a song, it was a lifeline. Jessica's rendition of Benson Boone's Beautiful Things didn't just fill the room, it shattered it. Her voice, rich with years of experience and heartbreak, soared and cracked in all the right places. Each lyric felt personal, each breath carried the weight of her story. Even the judges, known for poker faces and polished applause, looked genuinely shaken. Sofia Vergara leaned in, tears forming. Howie Mandel clutched his chest, and Simon Cowell. For once, he didn't smirk, he listened. When Jessica reached the song's climax, her voice cracked, not from a missed note, but from the emotion surging through it. That crack, raw and human, sent chills across the crowd. And before the last note could even settle, Sofia slammed the golden buzzer, rising from her seat with tears streaming down her face. A tidal wave of golden confetti erupted as Jessica collapsed to her knees, overwhelmed and weeping. The audience rose in unison, roaring. It wasn't just admiration, it was awe. This wasn't a performance, it was a resurrection, a declaration. The moment a woman who'd once been a child star reclaimed her voice, her power, and her story, all while carrying a new life inside her. Simon leaned in and whispered, "They love you." Mel B called her an angel. But the moment wasn't just about the song or the pregnancy. It was about timing, about fate. And while millions celebrated, not everyone online responded with applause. Because as the confetti settled, and clips began spreading like wildfire, the internet had its own questions and its own opinions. Within minutes of Jessica Sanchez's golden buzzer moment airing, the internet imploded. Clips of her performance flooded TikTok and Instagram reels, each racking up millions of views in hours. Hashtags like #GoldenJess, #AGTMom, and #Sheet started trending globally, and reaction videos, multiplied by the second. Fans flooded the comments, hailing her as the greatest comeback of the decade, and praising her for performing while pregnant as superhuman. But where there's praise, there's always backlash. Critics came out swinging. Some questioned whether revealing her pregnancy before singing was a strategic play for sympathy. Others stirred up toxic discourse about whether a pregnant woman had the stamina to survive the brutal pace of AGT's live shows. One blog even published a now viral op-ed titled "Can She Really Handle Vegas While Carrying a Baby?", which sparked heated debates across forums and fan pages. But the biggest speculation wasn't about her pregnancy. It was about what came next. Music insiders hinted that multiple record labels were already reaching out. Rumors swirled that she was being offered a fast-track deal to record a studio version of Beautiful Things, while another leak suggested AGT producers were considering her for a Las Vegas residency offer even before live rounds had started. Her name began appearing on prediction lists for the $1 million prize, alongside terms like Dark Horse Winner and Wildcard Queen. Some even theorized she was recruited in advance and not a traditional walk-on contestant, which only added fuel to the conspiracy fire. But through the chaos, one thing became clear. Jessica Sanchez wasn't just another viral contestant, she had become a cultural moment. Her face was everywhere, her name back in headlines, and her story just heating up, because as the live rounds loomed, the stakes weren't just high, they were personal. She wasn't just singing for a title anymore, she was singing for her future, her family, and a shot at rewriting everything the industry once took from her. With the golden buzzer behind her and the world now watching, Jessica Sanchez finds herself standing on the most precarious edge of her career and her life. The next phase of America's Got Talent isn't about viral moments or standing ovations. It's about endurance, strategy, and stamina, three things that become infinitely harder when you're pregnant and carrying the expectations of millions on your shoulders. Rehearsals for the live shows are grueling. 8-hour vocal sessions, stage choreography, wardrobe fittings, media interviews, and in Jessica's case, frequent prenatal checkups tucked between vocal warm-ups and lighting rehearsals. Every move is scrutinized. Every breath she takes carries not just a note, but a risk. Doctors have cleared her to perform, but privately, she's admitted to feeling moments of exhaustion and nausea that could derail even the best planned routine. And yet, she's not backing down. If anything, she's training harder, working with a vocal coach to preserve her range, a physical therapist to support her changing body, and a performance advisor to mentally prepare for the unpredictable twists of live television. The $1 million prize. It's closer than ever. But so are the critics. Some industry watchers argue she's now too famous for the show, that her past success gives her an unfair advantage. Others claim the pregnancy narrative is being overplayed for votes, but Jessica ignores the noise. She's laser-focused on one thing, telling her story through song. Each performance planned for the live rounds draws directly from her life. Songs about resilience, hope, and heartbreak. She's crafting a set list not just to impress, but to connect. And behind the scenes, there's more at stake than just a trophy. Label executives are quietly attending rehearsals. Netflix is reportedly circling with interest in a docuseries. Even talk show hosts are lining up for post-show interviews. But Jessica knows none of that matters if she can't deliver when the lights turn red. One wrong note, one forgotten lyric, one moment of physical strain, and the dream could vanish all over again. But this time, the stakes aren't just about fame, they're about legacy. Because while other contestants are fighting for their careers, Jessica Sanchez is fighting for something far more personal, the chance to show her future child what it means to fall, to rise, and to sing through it all. Jessica Sanchez didn't just walk back into the spotlight, she stormed it, carrying a story no one saw coming and a strength no one could measure. In one breathtaking moment, she became more than a singer, she became a symbol of resilience, of reinvention, of what it looks like to return when the world thought you were gone for good. From childhood prodigy to teenage sensation, from Houston anonymity to a golden buzzer moment that shook the country, Jessica has done something few ever manage. She rewrote her own narrative. And yet, as confetti fades and live shows loom, the final chapter is still unwritten. Will she rise all the way to the $1 million crown, or will the mounting weight of motherhood, pressure, and public scrutiny prove too much? Will the same voice that once slipped through the cracks finally claim the stage that's always felt just out of reach? For now, all we know is this: Jessica Sanchez didn't come back quietly. She returned with fire, with truth, and with something far more powerful than a second chance. She returned with purpose, and as her story unfolds, one thing is certain: no one is changing the channel, not this time.